Shaq. How you doing?
Hi, Big J. Thanks for having me on the show, on the new series that you got coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Not too bad, actually, after some bad picks, I guess.
This weekend didn't treat you very well?
It was okay, I guess. Got 24, 23, 42 or something, but yeah, a few bad picks, few good picks, but yeah, it's been an okay round, I guess. What about yourself?
I did about the same, probably about 23-10. So missed out on a few of the rookies who went bananas, but grabbed some guys who, scored 70 instead of the guys that scored 110. So it's not all bad, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on the channel today. We're just starting up a new show for those who are watching. So basically, this series is going to be called the Watchlist. So we're going to go through the players from each game for the round, kind of analysing how the game went, what you kind of saw from the game. We'll both have input on that, and just looking at players who potentially, who could break out, the rookies that might go up, or premiums that kind of fall down the ladder a little bit. Guys you might be able to pick up at a cheaper price. What do you reckon?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right. So starting off today, I'm just going to pull up the scores from the games, and then we'll go from there. All right. So first off, we had Melbourne versus Western Bulldogs. So I've got a question for you before we start. How do you feel about the first game of the week not being Richmond and Carlton? You were happy for that to happen, or not so much?
I actually don't mind though. I think the grand final rematch is done in the NBA, in the NFL, so I think it's actually not a bad concept, to be honest. Yeah. I think it should continue throughout the years.
I definitely think the same. I'm happy for Richmond and Carlton to keep the Thursday spot, but the Wednesday, definitely. It's nice to have something a bit different. And every year, hopefully, every year is going to be different, right? It's not going to be the same two teams every week.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Every year. Yeah. So we've just got the stats here from the game. Obviously, people can follow along on Fan Footy because that's where we've pulled it from. So we're just going to kind of go through both teams and have a look at some players in there, kind of who were the biggest scoring players and anything in particular or players you were looking out for in here. So let's start with Melbourne. So the biggest scorers on Melbourne's team was Petrarca, Oliver and Langdon. A noticeable person missing from there was Max Gawn. What do you think happened to him? Why did he only score 92 this week?
It could have been 120 with those free kicks, and he couldn't buy a free kick on the weekend. But I still think he's good for 115, 120.
Yeah.
Just things didn't go his way. It is what it is. Petrarca looks really good.
Yeah.
And I think he's following up his last finals campaign. He's sort of sorted out his kicking efficiency. So I don't know if you're going to get a cheaper track at 600K. I think he's ready to win a Charlie.
He's pretty hard to stop in the contest, isn't he? Big body and just loves to run and kick the ball. No one on the Bulldogs could stop him. There probably isn't many in the AFL that can on a good day. What do you reckon?
I don't think anyone can stop him. I think he's the best player in the league, in my opinion. But I think Clary's disposal has been really, really bad for about 6-7 games now. It's a bit of a worry if you own him, because I think he might be. You can pick him up a bit cheaper than what he was.
Yeah. So if we just look at Oliver, free kicks, I didn't even realise he gave away 7 free kicks and had 12 clangers. So that's a pretty poor game. Like, you wouldn't expect that to happen every week. But totally agree with you. Some of the time he just looked a bit lost.
Yeah, look, he'll come good. It's just the only problem with the Melbourne boys is if one goes big, the other doesn't.
Yeah,
and it's just the way it is. So if you really want to select 2 of them, you're gonna have to know that one's gonna go big and the other's not. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, very rarely, if you look at their scores throughout last year especially, you'll find that both of them had a massive game. You might have both on like 120, but you'll probably get games like this one where one's, Petrarca's 163 and Oliver's 112 or vice versa, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I actually like the look of Toby Bedford. I thought he was really, really good and actually changed the game for Melbourne in that game.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get a good run of games, knowing that Salem's out. But he's an okay option forward. We didn't score great, but the job security is there. So probably not an option right now with Nick Martin and Hayes and all those in right now, but one to watch. Yeah.
Do you think that he's like cemented his spot now? Because he was the injury sub, right? So with Salem coming out, he came in. Do you think he's kind of cemented his spot there? Or I know
it's
you're a
going to
Melbourne
be
fan.
very, very, very hard for him to get dropped. So
okay. Yeah. Definitely one to look for at like 120, 123K, I think he is. So could be an option if you had like a Langford or something in the forward line that you were kind of looking at maybe swapping out, right? Oh, Baldwin in the forward line.
Yeah, I was lucky I didn't start Baldwin. So
yeah, I did. So, whoops.
On the Dogs?
Yeah, so just looking at the rest of Melbourne, do you think like people would have started Stephen May, or I know he was a big choice last year. Do you think he's worth a look at or not really?
Nah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So just looking at the Dogs here, obviously that they didn't have their best game and some of their worries were kind of there. They've got some big worries in the team. We were speaking off air about Bruce being out and their forward line being a bit short now.
Yeah, I think they're in trouble this year, personally. I just don't know where they're going to kick goals from, and Ugle-Hagen's not ready or not giving opportunities. So I'm not that bullish on the Dogs this year, like most people. So I think the two core mids, like I think Dunkley's, if you don't have him, like get him immediately because his CBAs are just going to increase with Bond's injuries and he's going to be a nightmare. He's too cheap at 560, I think, right now.
Do you think the forward line selectability is a big thing as well? So you get him in the forward line as like an F1, he almost becomes a must-have, right?
Yeah, at that price, I think it's too cheap. And Lipper was playing half forward, I think, a lot. So that he's going to go 115, 120 easy.
Yeah.
Thought English was good too, man, to be honest.
Yeah. What do you think about his 8 free kicks?
Probably 5 of them were, but he got a few cheap ones.
Definitely.
I mean, what was it, 8 and 1 or something?
8 and 1, yeah.
I still liked his movement, and he moved behind the ball really well and he clunked a few marks. I thought he was really good, to be honest, and I wouldn't be surprised if a few people will go down from Gawn to.
Yeah, you reckon they'll pick him up?
I think he's going to be F1 to 6. So I'm not sure where he finishes. Maybe 105 average. I think that's good enough if he does that.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty good. That's what you want, right? Like a forward line, defense about 100 average is pretty good. 105 is pretty good in the forward line, yeah?
Yeah,
definitely as a keeper. Do you think that Bevo might use him a bit more as the number one ruck now, considering like Steph Martin's not been in there, or he might get pushed forward a little bit more? Where do you think his points are going to come from?
I think he's number one ruck with sitting behind the play. I think that's where he's going to score points. And what do you get? 18 hitouts. He's going to get roughly 18, 20 hitouts a week.
That's good.
He'll clunk 5-6 marks, and I think he's good for 105. Personally.
Yeah. No, definitely. If you don't have Jack McRae, I guess it's a bit of a worry, right? Like almost 40 touches on the weekend is pretty good.
Yeah, that's just the usual from Jack McRae, 133. I mean,
imagine starting Steele over him,
Yeah, you're in trouble if you're
in trouble.
So we'll go on to the next game. There's nothing to talk about, Jack McRae. He's 50% owned, so
I guess we have to worry a little bit. Just looking at like Oliver, because his break even's quite high. So if he keeps up, one or two more just over 100-point scores, he might actually drop in price and be pretty easy to pick up later. What do you reckon?
Yeah, Clary's certainly on
trading in.
Clary's surely on my watch list right now because he will go down in price.
And obviously Josh Dunkley, like you were saying, get him in now because he's probably not going to be very cheap for much longer. Once he plays the next 2 games, he might be untouchable, right? Double or triple trade to get him in.
It'll be very hard. I think he'll go to about 640, 630. So it's going to be very hard to find the cash if you don't have him.
Cool. All right. Do you think Norton's a viable option in the forward line?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting pick because they got no one else to kick goals. And what is he priced at? 360, 370?
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere around there.
Personally, I got more better options that are around that price. But if they win games, he's going to have to kick goals. So I think he could be all right for about 85.
Cool. I guess Bont's bit of a watch and see what happens with that ankle as well. If he's not playing next week, some things may change up a bit more. Just wait and see, I guess, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I'd love him at 500k like he was last year. So if he keeps up the 105s, he's going to get there pretty quick. I guess that's one of the problems with the premiums being so inflated at the start of the season, that a couple of stinker games like we've seen from Oliver and Bont, and they just drop in price, right?
Yeah, you can pick them up later on.
Pick them up
100k cheaper. So
cool. All right. Well, let's
move on to Carlton.
Yeah, head over to Carlton Richmond. All right. So the big movers for this game, if you have a look on the right-hand side over here, it rarely ever happens, especially didn't happen this week, but Carlton outscored Richmond by about 400 points in Supercoach, which just doesn't happen. Have you seen that happen before, like being that much?
Not really, man, to be honest. I haven't paid attention to that, actually, so I wouldn't know. But Carlton looks real good this year. Yeah. Real good.
So the biggest scorers for Carlton were Doherty, Sard at 139. Cripps looked really good. Hewitt, who I know was a big surprise for a lot. Matt Kennedy and Chera. So let's kind of go through the Carlton team first, and then we'll do Richmond. So Doherty coming back. Did you expect him to kind of score that much? Do you think he might be a guy who could be top 6 in the defense, or best first game and then goes back to previous scoring?
Oh, it's hard to tell, to be honest. He looked good, and they were giving him handball receives, and he looked really good. So I'm not sure. I would want to watch one more from him, but he's surely up there. Yeah.
No, I don't think many have started him either, right? So it's a pretty safe pick not to jump straight on. I think similar for Sard. I know that he'd been playing injured or, was somewhat injured previously, but he's rarely going to score a 139, and even just 95% efficiency is crazy for a player like him. I think he's a bit known to shank balls, right?
I think he's a pretty good kick, to be honest.
Okay.
So it didn't surprise me that he scored. I actually liked him for a breakout this year. So.
Okay. One to put on the watch list, maybe.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got your boy, Paddy Cripps. So tell us about Cripps. I know you started him, and not many people in the Discord or people we know kind of did.
Yeah, well, I'm high on Carlton this year. So I think Carlton will make the 8, and I think Cripps is a must right now. Like, if they do make the 8, then he'll average 115 easy, which would make him a M8, I guess, M7 at that price. He's just too good. I know he kicked 3 goals, but what do you think?
That last week too, right? Kicked 3 goals
the week
last
before,
week. Yeah, I think if you've started him, it's fantastic. If you've got the cash to bring him in potentially next week, we'll speak about some defenders that maybe will free up some cash later. But if you've got enough cash to bring him in, he's pretty tempting, right? He's Carlton's biggest player. We haven't seen him this pre-season with Walsh. and obviously he didn't play this game. So maybe he takes a little bit of points off him, but like no one's going to steal the ball from Paddy Cripps, right?
Yeah, I also feel like in the midfield, he has players around him to help him out. Like it's not him on himself, like Hewitt's tackling, doing a few dirty work. Hewitt's a really big addition for them because he helps Cripps out a lot.
Would you say Cripps does better with a stronger midfield or one where he's got to carry the team on his back?
I think he plays better with better players.
Okay.
So it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder when you carry.
Him having like a stronger midfield now is really beneficial for his scoring then.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So next up we've got Hewitt. He was pretty contentious at just under 400K in the defence, but 131, you can't argue with that, right?
Yeah, I started Georgie boy.
Me too.
I'm a big fan of the kid.
Yeah.
I thought he was a lock. Might be a keeper now, to be honest, from what I saw in round one, but he's still early.
Yeah. I know
Tackled well.
He outscored everyone in my defense this week. Is that the same for you? Like everyone else?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So 400K. If you've got a couple of underperforming guys and you don't have Hewitt, maybe a downgrade for some extra cash might be worth doing this week or next week, depending on how he goes. How do you feel about Kennedy? He's a guy that seems to be just in that right age range to break out, but hasn't really done it before. At like 430K, what's kind of your thoughts on him?
He's that weird price. Like, what is he average? No one actually can give me a number on what he averages, but I think his numbers should go down with Walsh. But I really like Kennedy. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
But how do you fit him? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you would pick Cripps over Kennedy at a similar price, right? That's a no-brainer. Yeah. Maybe in something like draft or lower points if you're really, really struggling to fit players in later on in the season. See what happens. And
Chera was okay. Was really good, actually. I can't say it was okay. But I don't think anyone has him in Supercoach, so I think he's an irrelevant player. I thought Mitch McGovern was really good.
Yeah?
What I saw.
What kind of impressed you with McGovern?
Just the intercept marking. Took a few kickouts, which I'm a big fan of. Extra disposals. I think he didn't play that last quarter, did he?
No, he definitely missed some of the fourth quarter. I don't know if he missed like the whole thing. I think he came on maybe the last 5 minutes or so, but he took a bit of a knock and then missed a lot of that time there.
Yeah, I think he's a really good pick. I really like McGovern. I'm big on him. And I thought Durden was really, really good. The pressure, the running, just the constant. He was just there all the time. He was near the ball somehow. Yeah. But as a rookie, he drifted back down. Scored a good 71, I saw. Kicked 2 goals. And looked really good.
I have a question for you. I know we've spoken about this, but we haven't really told anyone else. What's some things that you kind of look for in a player when selecting their scoring ability? Some extra job roles or things like that for like a mid-price or a rookie. What kind of turns you on to that player? I know you mentioned Mitch McGovern's like kickouts, for example.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of kickouts. So I think it increases your score by about 10, 15 points on average. So any player with a shifting role with kickouts, I'm all over him. So
yeah,
he won't be the majority kickout taker, but he'll maybe have 2-3, and that adds to 2-3 disposals. He'll get his 6-7 intercepts, and that's a good score.
Especially for a mid-pricer at like 250K.
Yeah, that's right.
If he keeps up this kind of scoring, what do you reckon he'll end up being? Like around what price?
He'll get to 400, I think.
Okay. No, that's good. That's all you want, right? Like anything more than that's a blessing, but you picked him assuming that he'd get to about that 400-ish price, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I agree with you on Durden. He looks really good as a rookie selection. Hopefully he doesn't rely too much on the goal scoring. But I think kind of that's his job role. So being a small forward, that's what he does. I don't think anyone else there on that list is really relevant. I know Charlie Curnow, he was in a few people's minds at the start of the season, but he's definitely fallen off now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's no one's picked Charlie Curnow who's serious this year. So let's just look over at Richmond. So I'd have to say Richmond's probably one of those teams that a lot of people had players in their sides in previous years, but this year seems a bit shallow, right? Like there's probably only one or two players that you'd actually pick in your team from Richmond this year.
I think there's only two, Jaden Short and Martin, to be honest. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have Shorty.
Yeah, definitely. I know he was on point to score massive, and I think in the fourth quarter, maybe when Carlton went big, he just dropped off. Remember him being something like 90-odd coming into the fourth and only scored 109. So something to watch out for. But I guess when you get smashed in that last quarter, they're kicking goals and not behind, so you don't get the kick-ins, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I know you've picked Dustin Martin this year. What's kind of your thinking around Dustin Martin, and should people look out for him, or why should they pick him or not?
Look, I should have went Dunkley, but I didn't have the cash to fund another sub defender that I really liked in Blakey, but we'll talk about him later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just picked Martin. I thought he could match Dunkley for 5-6 weeks, but it's not the case. Not looking like the case.
You think Dusty's going to end up... He'll still be a top 6 though, right? If he keeps up like a 1 or 8 average, he should be a top 6.
Yeah, it should be.
Not a bad pick.
I picked him because I watched him in the preseason, had a lot of midfield time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have no mids and he has to play there. So
yeah, definitely.
I think he's good for about 100, 105, and I'll take that.
That's all you want. I don't think Bolton's a pick. He had a few nice marks on the weekend, but I think his scoring's too
up and down.
Focused on him scoring goals too.
I thought Gipkus was okay, but not great for that price. I'm not sure about him, to be honest.
Yeah,
he'll make money, but
not a huge amount. It's hard being a key defender too. Yeah. All right. So I guess to kind of look out from this game, we've spoken about Cripps is definitely someone to look out for. Maybe don't get him in this week, but potentially next week, just depending on if you've got the cash and, he pops out another 130, 140. Similar with Hewitt, keep him on. And then that's probably about it, right? If you don't have Durden, he's definitely a decent rookie option in. And similar with McGovern too. Yeah,
that's about it, I think.
Yeah, I think most people would have Short who have like 4 or 5 defenders in their back line. So most would have him. They don't really have to worry about him too much. Yeah. All right. Next up, we have St Kilda and Collingwood, and they played on Friday.
Yeah, very, very interesting game.
Maybe let's start with St Kilda. Before the game started, who did you think was going to win? Did you have a pick for this game?
No, I didn't know. I thought it was a 50-50 game.
Okay.
And it ended up being that. So
yeah. I mean, what's it only like 17 points is pretty even. Jack Hayes kind of came out of nowhere. I know he was like a SNAFL god ruckman, but 127 is pretty good for a 102k player.
He looks really good. I think he could actually play midfield. That's how good I think he is. He's got elite running. Yeah, very mobile for a ruck. I think he's a must-have. And if you don't have him, make sure you get him in if you went the Dixon route.
Yeah. I know he saved a lot of people from having Sean Darcy out this week. So they had him as an R3 and just put the emergency, save the cash, and 127. You can't complain.
No, you can't complain with that. He saved a lot of teams this week. So you got to ride him out.
Yeah. Rowan Marshall did pretty good as a 124.
Yeah, I thought he played really well, to be honest. But obviously Hayes scored more. But I thought he was solid, really solid as a sole ruck.
Definitely. I know myself and a few other people are hoping that Ryder's maybe injured for a while, or St Kilda realise they don't really need him, and then both of them get picked as R1, R2 in the side. Just Supercoach scoring, but they looked really good. I know the score, they didn't win this week, but the score, they looked really good on field, right?
Yeah, very good. I think they complement each other as well. So I can't see how they don't start them too for the full future.
Definitely. And next up, we had Brad Crouch, Gresham, and Sinclair. Did anyone kind of impress you in there, or they just, your average type of scores that you'd expect?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't mind the Sinclair. I have to watch him a bit more. I think he's on kickouts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He's like 460K. He's someone to monitor, but we'll have to see a bit more. One more round, I guess. We'll know.
Yeah. Gresham, for me, definitely a 109 score. If you had him at 300K, you'd be happy with that. I know pre-scaling he was on 90 and then got 19. So it's a bit of someone in Champion Data has him in their Supercoach team.
Yeah, surely.
Yeah.
Steele.
Yeah, I was going to say, just working down the list, we've got Steele at 87. Should people be worried about Steele?
I think you should be very worried about Steele this year.
Yeah.
Didn't look good in pre-season. The midfield doesn't look good from what I didn't rate Steele this year as a pick.
Yeah.
And I think you might be in trouble with him. He might come good, but with McRae and Tuke popping off, it's a bit of a loss at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. He, with that 87, he's definitely looking like he's going to drop some cash unless he, pumps out a 160 or something for the next 2 weeks. So he's on my radar potentially to pick up in those crucial first upgrade rounds, or even if there's better picks, maybe just go past him altogether. Would he be someone that you're looking at in your midfield this year, or just no from the way he's looking?
My gut says no, but if he drops 500, it's going to be very hard not to get him.
Definitely. Did you get sucked into the Mitch Owens hype?
No.
Okay, that's good. I definitely did. I was looking for a player, I think it was like M12 on the bench, and it was just, Mitch Owens is going to play. Mitch Owens isn't going to play in my team this week. He's going to get dropped. But he just looked a bit lost, didn't he?
I thought he was pretty bad in the Amy, so there was no way I was selecting him.
Oh, there you go. And only 50% game time too. So I think he came on just after half time and basically didn't do anything. So, yeah, but it sucked in a few people there. But there's enough, I guess, rookies around that 123, 117 price that you're not going to get sucked in for. Is there anyone else in St Kilda that kind of impressed you that we haven't talked about, or that was probably the biggest players there? Probably
Hayes, Marshall, pretty good.
Yeah.
Gresham could be an okay pick, but not sure. I like the look of Sinclair, but I'll have to watch him a bit more. So I need one more round worth of data on Sinclair. And that's about it, I guess.
Yeah, and then Steele, wait for Steele to drop in price and potentially not grab him at all.
If there's a few people in the Discord saying bury the Steele in round 6, which could be a possibility.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Theo's keen on that one in the Discord. So,
So just moving over to Collingwood now. So biggest movers in Collingwood they only had 4 guys scoring over 100, which I thought was pretty crazy, just how they played. But Lipinski, Grundy, DeGoey, Adams, and Dacos. Well, we'll say Dacos as well. So Lipinski looked really good, didn't he?
Very good. And from a rumour, I've heard that all the Bulldogs players have him in their Supercoach team. So they must know something about this guy.
Yeah.
Which is tempting me to get him from Berry, but I'm finding it hard to find the money. I think he looks really good. Really good. And George was spot on with this pick.
Do you think there's anyone in the Collingwood team that's really going to push him out of the side, or he's kind of job role as that midfield bull? He's the only one that can do it, so he should keep up comparable scoring throughout the year.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't select him based on Amy. He got injured and there was doubts on him, and they went with the safe option. And Chris, I feel like don't want to talk about, but yeah, I think he looked really good.
Okay.
130, 13 contested possessions, five clearances. Looked like a gull. Ran a lot. I think he's gonna be good, but I don't know how much money he makes, Jay.
Yeah, I guess if you want to keep him though, keep him for the whole year, even at like 300k, or the thing is what 350, yeah.
I think he's 350, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, even if he doesn't make a lot of money, if he's going to keep up 90s to 100s every week or plus 100s, you could end up having him as bench cover, I guess, like a worst case scenario, or an M8 keeper for the year. I mean, 115, 120 is basically the threshold, so it could happen.
Personally, I don't think he's a keeper.
Okay.
He will average over 100. I'll be sure of that.
Okay. Well, I mean, 100 gets him to 500k, so that's still 150 plus on the trade that you're making for him. So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Grundy was up next. I know personally it's nice to have a ruckman that scored over 100 this week. So Grundy was there for me. Max Gawn didn't do it, so glad Captain Grundy's back. He looked all right, yeah. He did what his job was, gave away a few too many free kicks, but he looked solid.
Yeah, he looked good.
Yeah.
He looked good. Probably has the players now to get those taps from him. So, yeah, Grundy looks like a really good pick now at that price.
You wouldn't be sad picking him at like 600k, starting with him. I know we'll talk about Wits a bit later, but set and forget in that position, Grundy gone or potentially Darcy, see how it goes. Next up, we've got Jordan De Goey. Was he kind of in your thoughts? Do you think he was going to score what he did this week?
No, but he played a lot of. He went through that midfield a lot. So that's a bit worrying if you don't own him. I'm not sure on De Goey. What are your thoughts anyway?
I know a lot of people probably won't pick him just kind of what happened in the preseason, that kind of thing. He was due for a bit of a breakout year. We saw that in the end of like last year, I think, as well. Had a few games scoring over 100. So at 460k in the forward line, he definitely could be a keeper in there if he keeps up even just 105 average. I think he plays a role for Collingwood that they need. So he's likely to get a lot of the ball, really.
Yeah, but at his price, it's hard to select him over Butters or even a Heaney. So
yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so
yeah, I think you're right. There was only a couple that we could select, and Jordan De Goey probably wasn't high on that list. So yeah, Taylor Adams did all right, scoring 100. I think he was set in the midfield as well, looking by his contested possessions and clearance numbers.
Yeah, he looked okay, I guess. Yeah. He should get more than that, I think.
I think he got injured. What's this? Yeah, got bumped in the ribs, missed out on some game time. 73% you'd think would be in the high 80s for him. So, that's almost 20 points he's probably lost there. And then your boy, Nick Dacos. So, how can you not start Nick Dacos this year, man? Some teams didn't have him, and they're crazy.
They should just give the Rising Star already to him.
Yeah.
He's won it.
Do you know who won it this week?
Who was it? Nick Martin?
Nick Martin. Yeah, Nick Martin won over Dacos this week. So
I'm sure Dacos will get nominated. So
yeah, I'm sure he's going to put out another big 27 possession game, maybe even next week. So no worries about him there.
D6 for a lot of people in round 6. So could be an okay option.
Is he someone you think maybe you'll hold until the bye rounds at least? Upgrade other people and keep his scoring?
He's going to tick over. I think he'll tick over 80, 90, somewhere around there. So,
okay, that's what you want.
I think he's really good. I think he's one of the best young players, first-year players I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and from watching the game as well, they gave him the space to do what he wanted as well. Like, it wasn't like, hey, we'll give you a couple of handouts here and there. He went and won the ball. but they also pass to him quite a lot. So I think they kind of understand how good this kid is, and they're going to feed him the ball and let him do what he wants to do, right?
Yeah, he was touted as being one of the best draft picks in a long time. So I think he's really, really good. And if you don't have him, get him ASAP.
Yeah, definitely. So just moving down the list here, I know a couple of people had Howe, probably not a good selection. Darcy Moore, similar. And then you've got your boy Jack Crisp down the bottom. So
please.
Big 69 from Jack Crisp. Funnily enough, he kind of outscored a couple of the other premium defenders in Ridley, especially. But what do you think kind of contributed to his 69 this week, and what were you expecting at the start of the week with him?
Yeah, I think we all got sucked into this pick. I just really hate it, and I just hate this guy. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what he plays. I don't know what is his position in the team. Or can anyone explain that to me? What's his role?
He was supposed to be like a midfield type clearance player, I think. You know, he'd get the ball and help it transition up the field or be around the stoppage, that kind of thing. But watching the game, he definitely lined up behind the stoppage, so would stop the ball coming backwards, but they'd always kick it forwards. So we just didn't get it. And then when he was in defence, he'd be the free man and they'd pass to a Dacos or a Pendlebury. So he just missed out on the ball in defence as well when he played halfback. So it feels a little bit like he's kind of lost his role a little bit. Are you kind of worried with his scoring? What's your plans with Jack Crisp?
I'm really worried about him. I think he could score well next week, so I'm going to hold him. But there are so many good options.
Yeah.
And he's number one on the chopping block for me.
If he doesn't score well next week, get rid of him? Yeah,
I'm getting rid next week if he doesn't do anything.
Okay.
Even if he does anything, I just think there are better picks.
Yeah.
For him.
I'm a bit worried when Maynard comes back off his suspension next week. I think he only got 1 week. So bit worried when he comes back. Even more midfield time and more ball, he's going to lose off the halfback as well. So, yeah, see what happens. It might be Jack Crisp gets chopped. So, yeah. Bit
on to the next game.
Yeah. So, guys, we're kind of looking at there. Obviously, you'd try and get Hayes into your team at for 102K. Potentially Rowan Marshall. Do you think he'll get DPP at some point, or just a good ruck choice?
He'll be a ruck this year.
Yeah. And then watch out for Steele price drop. If you've got him, be a bit wary that people are going to get him a lot cheaper, especially with 87s and being something like 670K, right? Is quite expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah. And then on the Collingwood side, look out for Lipinski, seeing what he's going to do next week. Potentially get him in at 350K. Could make 100K there. Grundy's fine. DeGoey, potentially. But we wouldn't pick him over Butters or Dunkley. And, most people are only running 2 premiums in that spot. And then Dacos as well. If you don't have him, bust your guts to try and get him into the team, yeah?
Yeah, Crisp is a worry.
Yeah, and Crisp as well.
I wouldn't blame anyone for trading him. I was that close to trading him. I'm just thinking about it now.
I almost spent a trade boost this week to get rid of him. I think I'm going to hold for 1 week, but he's definitely, if you don't perform, you're out of my side this week. So definitely one there for me. So let's head over to Geelong Essendon on Saturday morning or afternoon. Cool. So big plays on the Geelong side. Dangerfield, Hawkins, Stengel, and Stanley and Stewart. I know we'll definitely talk about Stewart. And then on Essendon's side, we had Nick Martin, Merritt, Cutler, Shield, and Parrish. So let's start off with Geelong. Obviously, they were the winners this game. Do you think they were going to be as dominant as what they were?
No, I thought it would be actually a close game. I actually tipped the Bombers in this game, but
okay, yeah. I know
with the injuries and stuff, it was just like, what's going on at Essendon? They're in trouble. There's a few picks I'm worried about that I have, especially Parrish. I can't see him scoring well, even though he's a great player. But Essendon looked really bad on the weekend.
Dangerfield's back to his best with a 155. he just looked like he was dominant everywhere on the field, didn't he? Running through contests, even rested up forward and kicked a goal and was setting up other people for goals. Dangerfield from like 2 or 3 years ago, super dominant.
Yeah, Danger was really good. I think he will have a good season. Could have a good season this year. The only worry is about playing forward with him and with Jeremy Cameron now.
We could get him having DPP, which would be amazing, right?
What do you spend forward anyway? 40% or something?
Something like that. Like he wasn't stuck in the midfield all the time. I know he definitely rested up forward. So would you, hypothetically, if he got DPP, would you pick him as a forward? Yep. He's kind of a must-have in that spot.
Well, it depends what price you're going to get him at,
so definitely.
If he keeps playing like this, it's going to be hard to get him in.
I know, just looking at Hawkins, so one of the knocks for him was that with Cameron in the side, they'd be sharing a lot more of the ball and a lot more of the goals. Do you think he's kind of selectable later on in the season if he keeps up this kind of scoring with Cameron out? I don't know how long Cameron is going to be missing for. But do you think people may select him off the back of, hey, as like a first or second upgrade target in the forward line, if he's going to be the sole key forward at Geelong?
Look, Hawkins is a solid forward option. If Cameron is out, then it makes him an even better option. But if Cameron comes back in, then
they'll share it a bit more, right?
They'll share it a bit. So,
what did you think of Tyson Stengel? Obviously, 4 goals won't happen every week, but he looked really lively and happy to be there, right?
Yeah, I thought that that's the missing piece that Geelong's been needing for a long time, to be honest. That small that could kick 3-4 goals and help them out. And just forward pressure, and I thought it was really good, to be honest. What is he, 240K, 220?
Yeah, I think he's like 240. So he'd be competing with like a McGovern in your side or a Brodie in your side or even Canelio for that kind of price as a forward option. You'd be competing with like those players in there.
Look, he's not going to score 120 every week.
No,
he kicks what, 4-2 or 4-3 or something?
Yeah, 4-3.
7 scoring shots is alarming because that's a lot. Yeah, one to monitor, actually. One to put on the watch list.
Yeah.
So if you
want something a bit different, you mean?
Well, if McGovern, if he has another 120-point game, 130, he's going to make 200K. So it's going to be hard for him.
If Berry had another stinker or another average game and Stengel got something similar, would you consider swapping them for the quick cash price rise or not really?
Depends if Berry's really injured or playing injured, or I can see he's injured. It could be a possibility. Not ruling it out.
That's cool. So Stanley next up kind of did average ruckman things. I don't think he was very influential. You wouldn't pick him anyway.
Non-Supercoach relevant player.
Definitely. So. Tell us about Tom Stewart, Shaq.
He's my favourite player. So I just literally think the ball was not even there and he scored 100. So next week they play Sydney. He could have 10 intercepts, 30 to 25 kicks and score 140. And I think he's day 1, day 2, honestly. I just can't see if he's fit, he's day 1 or day 2.
So it's really good, Stuart. Really good signs that the ball was basically in the forward line for the whole game, and then Stewart could still rack out 100, right? Compared to someone else that, they're relying on kick-ins a little bit more, so they'd get like a 60, whereas Tom Stewart on a bad day in defense would still score a 103.
Yeah, I just think they look for him all the time, and when you own a player that is constantly getting the ball, it just feels good.
Yeah. Definitely. Put him on your watch list. Get him in if you have to, even if you have to downgrade or upgrade a Crisp in the next couple of weeks. Potentially a Stewart's one to jump on. See what happens if you've got the spare cash. Is there anyone else in the Geelong side there that you're kind of looking at? I know a few people may have had Guthrie in their team as like a bit of a point option.
Yeah, I don't like Guthrie. It was 610, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Around that price, 610, 620.
Yeah, not sure on him. Actually, I don't like him at all, to be honest.
Yeah. I think there's probably better options to pick around that price.
Like Petrarca at 610.
Yeah.
So
Well, would you pick Guthrie or Petrarca? Like it's a bit, kind of doesn't work that way. Yeah. I don't think they even had any rookies playing. It sucks. Sam De Koning got concussed, so I know he was on par for a decent score. 100% efficiency I found was really good for him. So when he does get the ball, he uses it, and that kind of adds to his 38 with only 6 touches. But yeah, just that concussion. Hopefully he comes back in 2 weeks when he's fit and healthy. Are you keeping him as a defensive option? You've got him in your backline at the moment?
yeah, I got him at D8.
Yeah.
Right
You
now,
wouldn't offload him or anything, would you?
No,
You'd just keep him along. Yeah.
I just keep him as a loop or
Mm.
yeah, I think it should be back in 2 weeks anyway. So
And that's where like what people have been talking about, you might not start a loop in Supercoach, but it's round 2 and we've already got a concussed player that everyone's got. So there's a loophole for your team. So just looking over at defense now, Nick Martin, Shaq, how good was it seeing Nick Martin score 5 goals on the weekend?
I just think this kid's an elite runner and he will play a lot of games and he's very, very good. He's a very good player. Like, was he a rookie, first-year player?
No, I think he might have been. No, he was pre-season supplementary. So they only picked him up in like January, I think. He was one of the guys that filled like their empty list spots from the state leagues.
I mean, 27 disposals, 10 marks, 5 goals, and
it's pretty good.
114. It should have been a 160 in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever.
He definitely was their best player on field. Zach Merritt's up next. So obviously you'd have Martin in your forward line if you don't have him. One to get before the first price rise, right? You have to.
Yeah, I started Martin, so
yeah,
on the bench, unfortunately.
Same for me too. Zach Merritt's up next. So 113, basically kind of what you would think he would score in a losing Essendon side.
Yeah, Merritt's out there every year, I guess.
Yeah,
I think
39 touches.
We found him out last year that he's just a 115 every week, so either take it or not. Definitely.
We've got Cutler and Shield up next. Probably not Supercoach relevant. I know some people may have had Shield at like a 350K-ish price, I think he was, but probably not Supercoach relevant, yeah? Similar to McGrath, you wouldn't pick them.
No, with the other 300K options that are available right now, how much is Shield anyway? Is it 300?
I think he's 360.
Or is he more?
Supercoach. Yeah, I think he's about 360K. Could be wrong. Yeah, so 361. So you'd be competing with him or Lipinski in your team, basically.
No, I prefer Lipinski, actually.
Definitely. And then Jai Caldwell. So at 260K, would you consider Jai Caldwell in your team, considering he just popped out a 91?
I mean, you can consider him, but I won't be considering.
You won't have him.
I mean, are you considering him?
I know one of the knocks for him being in my side was the fact that he went big last week in the preseason game when Merritt and Shield weren't in the team. So to kind of rack that up, still getting a 91 in a team that, got smashed by 50-odd points, there's promising signs there. I think if he pops out another 90-plus score, and you've got Berry, who at a similar price, you don't have enough money to potentially go up, but you can sideways a Berry. He could be an option there. I mean, he's only got to get to like 420K, which you'll do if he's scoring 90 pluses before he's viable for that trade. Could be Caldwell plus a rookie on the bench gets you like a Steele, for example, or an Oliver come round 6 to 10. So potentially, I think we've just got to wait another week with him, personally. So just looking down the list there, we're going to talk about Jordan Ridley, and I think that's probably it for the team. So, did you watch the game versus Geelong this weekend?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So, what was kind of your thoughts on Ridley? That 68 does not look very good.
I didn't like Ridley
540K.
before the season started, and I think my gut was right on him. Just too many guys sharing kickouts. Cutler, Redmond, Francis. I don't know who else is in there. Heppel, Hind even.
I think Kelly
Merritt
as well. Kelly got a couple of kickouts.
They just don't like giving him the ball kickouts. They want to play quick, and he's a worry, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's a big worry if you have him in your team.
So hold for another week, or on the chopping block, he has to score like a 130 to.
I think him and Chris are on the chopping block.
Get chopped.
In my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely the same for me. It's something that I brought up in previous videos, but that Essendon backline is so stacked. And you saw kind of when Ridley came back off his concussion last year, when Heppel came back, he just lost all of his possessions then. And now they've just included another player in Jake Kelly in there as well. So he's not the main distributor off the backline. And as you said, they just want to move the ball quick. And obviously they can't do that with Ridley in there if he's moving really slow. So it's a big worry for a guy that you want as a premium keeper in your side. Yeah. If people had Kane Baldwin, what would you do with him? Trade? So he just didn't look the goods. He didn't look good enough. Just dump him as quick as you can?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. No, that's fair. So watch list for this game. Probably look at a Stengel like we were talking about. Martin. And Tom Stewart as well in there. That's probably the three. Potentially a Caldwell if he does score well next week and Berry is injured. We'll just wait and see what happens with him. So and Ridley as well. Work out what you're going to do with his cash because he's probably gone next week. That's pretty fair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So got GWS Sydney. So Tom Green went really well. So just looking at GWS, so Tom Green, Taranto, Flynn, Josh Kelly, and Perryman were kind of the big movers. Did anyone kind of surprise you or make you look out for them in the GWS side?
Yeah, I thought Tom Green was really good.
Yeah.
I think he's a big boy.
Breakout year?
Could be.
Yeah. Would you pick him at 430K though? Is 430K? Would you potentially pick him over a Cripps considering they're close in price? That's what
I prefer Cripps. Yeah. He's just Tom Green's going to have his games where Kelly goes big as well. So
yeah,
not yet.
Taranto would have been good for people who picked him in the forward line this year. I know it was a bit pricey, but another one of those 500K guys that did really well.
Yeah, really well. And he didn't. Did he play forward much? I'm not sure.
I think so. He played about half and half. I think. I personally didn't see much of him, but obviously 119 is a pretty good score. One of those like sneaky players who comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, had a lot of marks and tackles, and I thought he was okay, to be honest. What did he kick? 1-3. So
1-3, yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Wait, upgrade target probably, right? So
yeah, we could get him in later, so. Not someone to stress about.
So Matt Flynn scored a 119. Do you feel like his scoring pushes Bruce out, or do they have space for both? I know some people were looking at Bruce at a 200.
I think Brander will get dropped for Bruce.
Okay, so they can play both definitely, and just have swap between the two. Okay, well that's good for those Bruce owners that have him from the start of the season, or potentially bring him in. So Josh Kelly was next, kind of did Josh Kelly things. Perryman the same. The 80 from Cornelio is pretty comfortable, isn't it? As a 260K player, you'd be happy with that score?
Yeah, reasonably happy.
Yeah. And then I guess the next one down is Lockie Whitfield. So 73. What do you feel about Lockie Whitfield? Do you have him in your team at the moment?
No, I did not start.
Okay.
But,
should we be worried about him?
People are saying the ground was small. which I could understand, but
Mm.
I feel like Cummings steals too many points off him. Like that's
Yeah.
my natural instinct, what I feel.
Mhm.
And what they ended up on the same score. So
Yeah. Pretty close, yeah. Or same score.
and they averaged the same last year as well.
Mm.
So in between 92 or 93. I'm not sure. Maybe give him time, but I don't like Whitfield.
I guess maybe if you didn't have Hewitt and Hewitt went big and Whitfield had another 70, you could downgrade for 100K there, save some money and potentially save yourself the heartache. Because I know you've brought it up in the past before about Whitfield only scoring like a 90 average last year. So him not being, a huge Supercoach option, but a lot of people picked him because he was cheap and he has the potential to go big, right?
Yeah, the potential's there. It's just for me, he doesn't take kick out, so I can't select him.
Definitely. And that's what you want from your defenders if you can get it. I don't think anyone else there on the GWS side we're really looking at. They didn't really have any rookies playing. So let's head over to the Swans. So obviously Luke Parker did really well. I think he's got super low ownership and seems to control a bit more of that Sydney midfield now. Like Kennedy's fallen off a bit. So Parker's got a lot more of that score. Next up, we had Isaac Heaney, Bro Bodden, Florent, Hickey, and Blakey. So they were kind of...
Lauren was really good, to be honest.
He looked everywhere, didn't he?
Yeah, he looked really good.
What do you feel about Heaney? I know a few people picked him at like that 440K mark. What's kind of your thoughts on Heaney? Would you trade up for him before the first price rise, or is he someone just on your watch list to potentially get in later?
No, I think you can get Heaney whenever you want, really, to be honest. But if he goes like this, it might be a good starting pick.
Yeah. I know George was pretty happy that Heaney went 140 this week. As a nice pod player for him compared to other people. So just moving down the list there, I know you're hot on a certain player. Do you want to mention who they are?
Yeah, I'm big on Nick Blakey this year. So I just like the way he plays. He's so efficient, takes kick-outs. And even when Jake Lloyd does come back, I think he'll be about 60-40 split between Lloyd and him.
Yeah, definitely.
But they just look for him. He's so quick off the mark, and he's a really good disposal. He kicks the ball really well, I think, and long. I like Blakey, and I started him. I thought he's going to break out. So
he's doing pretty good for that thought already, right? 98's pretty good compared to some of the backline options are a lot more expensive price.
Yeah. I thought Angus Sheldrick was not
50-50.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see Paddy McCartan scoring a 70 for us. One of those backline rookies that people could probably have on field instead of Hinge or SDK. Obviously now that he's injured.
I think he's D6.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah, definitely. Braden Campbell did all right. And we got Dylan Stevens in the midfield. So did you start him?
Yeah, I got him at M9, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm happy
with the 59.
I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
Better Ward.
Yeah, definitely, right? Or me with Mitch Owens. So that's fun.
Yeah.
So Sheldrick, he actually really impressed me this game. He didn't score a lot, but the commentators were talking him up quite a bit, and he seemed to be kind of everywhere. One of those, I know Sydney's pretty good with blooding a lot of their youth, and he feels like he might be someone who sticks around in the team for a while. Is that something that you kind of can back me up on that?
Personally, I don't see how he will last in that team.
Okay.
They've got a few guys out, so...
Yeah, definitely. That's something to consider, right? Warner and a few others.
Didn't play. Chad Warner didn't play. Lloyd didn't play, so someone's got to go out.
Yeah, definitely. And Logan McDonald there, no one's going to pick him anyway. Kicked one behind and didn't really do much. So watch out on the watch list for this game. We're talking about Tom Green, definitely. Taranto is probably a forward upgrade option later on in the season. If you don't have him, it's pretty hard to get to that 550K mark, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Everyone's got Cornelio, so that's fine. Look out for Lockie Whitfield. Would you, if he had another stinker game where he scored, let's say, an 80, would you consider trading him, upgrade or swap him in a different position? That'd be a 70.
It depends how many bad defenders you got. If you got Chris Ridley and Witt, don't know
it's
what.
It's a bit tough, right?
It's very tough.
Yeah.
Some of them will bounce back. It's just I don't know if all three will bounce back.
I guess at keeper price, you'd want all three to bounce back, wouldn't you?
Yeah. If you've selected them, you want a big game next week. So go on to the next game, Joe.
Yeah. So Parker's there, Heaney, maybe if you want, and then just the rookies really. So next game up is Brisbane, Port Adelaide. So bit of a slog fest watching the game. It didn't seem like a lot of players maybe come into the preseason a bit worse for wear, but kind of bit of a slog game. I know people are complaining about it being a bit boring. So in Brisbane had Lachie Neale, McInerney, pretty typical ruckman score. You'd be happy at 500K with that. Marcus Adams, bit of a out of nowhere. Joe Danaher did his thing, scoring 4 goals, and that's pretty about it. Lachie Neale, everyone's got him, right? So 140 is pretty set. If you don't have him, you're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, he's top 3 mid this year.
Yeah. McInerney, 500K ruckman, one of the options there. You'd be pretty happy with that score?
Yeah, that's not bad from Moscow, knowing that Fort played as well. So
yeah, it's probably good signs showing that both of them can play, and then he can still score that. I guess Port didn't really have a ruckman, so makes it a bit harder. But yeah, definitely that score there. Jared Lyons, I think, played a bit of forward, so maybe he gets some DPP if we're lucky. Cockatoo would have been an all right pickup. I think he was fairly cheap. Scored a 77, one that people don't have. And then Jared Berry, I think, is probably the main one from that Brisbane side. So he scored, I think it was about a 65 coming into the halftime break, and then ended up on a 67. I know he took a bit of a shoulder knock, is what people are saying. Looking at the game itself, I think he played on Houston as well and made him a bit quieter in the second half. But it's definitely someone to kind of look out for and watch, hey?
Yeah, certainly. I actually think if Berry's fit, I think you should keep him. But
okay,
a lot of people are trading him, so I'm gonna wait on Berry to see what happens.
Yeah, wait and see this week. Obviously, if he's not named, trade him. If he scores another like 60 or 70, would you consider trading him potentially? If like a Caldwell scores another 90 plus, would you swap it across or use the cash to upgrade somewhere else?
I like Lipinski, so
okay,
I'm going to wait on that one.
A bit of cash.
It's just Daniel Rich is on the watch list. He had a really bad game, but I think we could pick up a nice, cheap Daniel Rich
later on in the season. Yeah, definitely. So just looking at Port. So Boak went big, Houston, Butters, Burn Jones, and Ollie Wines. So Boak, you kind of expect that. I think looking at Port, it's similar to what we were saying about Melbourne, where Boak or Wines go big, but rarely both. Is that pretty fair to say? I don't think they really have a game where they both go massive.
Yeah, it's one or the other, similar to Melbourne, I guess.
Yeah. Everyone's burn man, Dan Houston from last year. Nice 144 for the people who picked him. So I can't complain there. And then everyone's boy, Zach Butters. So I think he's probably one of the highest ownerships in the forward line. And for good reason, as we've seen here. So if you didn't pick him, you'd be in trouble. You can still get him in, but 114 is pretty promising in the forward line. Definitely going to be like an F1 to 6 kind of player, right?
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Did anyone from that Port team impress you or you were looking at?
I only watched half a game, so I guess Mead was okay for a rookie.
Yeah.
I thought.
52 is not terrible compared to other options who scored poorly.
And they got injuries now with Leah and McKenzie, and I think he's going to get some run in that midfield. So
yeah, I think so too. Well, as you can see here, Connor Rose is not out, but Dersma's out for a while. Broke his collarbone, I think. As you say, McKenzie's hurt his knee. Potentially we'll get a Sam Skinner coming into that team. We'll just wait and see. So
we'll get some rookie defenders coming in. So
right.
Whether it's Skin or Skinner, we'll have one or two.
Yeah, definitely.
Weeks.
So I guess kind of watch list. Everyone's got Lockie Neal anyway. From the Brisbane side, as you were saying, kind of be careful for Jared Berry. See what happens next week. Don't drop him yet, but it could be an option to get rid of. And then, Daniel Rich later on in the season. We'll just wait and see. I don't know if he'll be the top dog again at Brisbane or the top defender. I think he was top 4 last year, but we'll just wait and see with him. Similar to Port, I don't think if you don't have any of the big players in that team, you probably wouldn't pick them, right?
Yeah.
They're not on your watch list to do there. Potentially William Drew and any rookies that come in. Port seem to be pushing for finals, I would say. So if you go all out on a Sam Skinner,
I like their rookies. I like Port Adelaide's rookies, Jay.
Yeah.
I don't like, apart from Butters, Houston's was a trap for me last year. I started in.
Same with everyone. Yeah.
Never pick him again, so I don't care what he scored.
Would you trade like an Owens to a Mead this week or next week if he has a similar score?
I'm not sure who else. Who are the other rookies that scored?
Forward rookies, Mead, Baldwin. You could probably swing with a DPP if you're lucky. Those two are probably the two that
is Mead a midfielder or a forward?
No, he's midfielder. 123k midfielder.
Yeah, so maybe Ward, if he has another bad game, you could
as a stinker down to Mead, downgrade. Yeah,
and get 60k and put a berry up to someone else or downgrade or whatever you need to do. So 60k is a lot right now.
Definitely.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but
yeah,
you need the cash.
Yeah.
While having the money to upgrade
to
a sort of better player.
It's almost the difference between having like a Whitfield and a Tom Stewart, with some money in the bank. So yeah definitely. All right. Next up, we've got Hawks and North Melbourne. So Hawthorn, obviously the winners this game, but didn't have a lot of big scorers. I thought was pretty interesting looking at the scores. So Newcomb, Jath, Mitch Lewis, Sicily, who we'll talk about, Gunston, Frost, and Morrison. Outside of Sicily, well, let's talk about Sicily. Would you have picked him in your team? Is he in your team now? Is he someone that you're looking at?
No, he's not in my team, but I should have picked him.
Okay.
Sicily. I think he had 50% kickouts or 40%, I'm not sure. 11 kicks or 6-7 intercepts. I think Hawthorn's no good. And what is it, 420 or 440? 440, I think it is.
440, let's say around that price.
Yeah, that could be an option, Chris, to Sicily, maybe.
It'd save you a lot of money. Yeah, 448k. So you could definitely
130k.
Yeah.
So
or even
I'm
like
actually looking at it.
Even like a Whitfield to Sicily, depending on kind of how, or a Ridley, depending on how they go next week. You wouldn't pick Newcomb or Jaff or Mitch Lewis in your side, would you? They're kind of like no-go options. And Tom Mitchell. So we'll speak about him. We'll talk about Josh Ward and McDonald next, but Tom Mitchell's 80. Were you kind of expecting that this game, or is he someone that you're looking at? What's your thoughts on Tom Mitchell?
Well, he's going to drop price, so you have to consider him later on, I guess. Any top 12 or top 12 mid right now, but there's going to be a lot of mids that break into that top 12, so
yeah,
I'm not sure.
If he came out at like 440k or 450k,
yeah, sure,
or whatever, you definitely
you're going to get him.
Yeah, similar to what he was last year. I think some people picked him up even at like 480. And then came out and still averaged 115. So, yeah, he's an option there.
You just got to get them when they're really low.
Yep. Watch out for the break even. Watch the watch list episodes, and we'll let you know when the players are coming. So,
I thought Ward was terrible on the wing. To be honest, 180k. I didn't start him.
No.
Donald.
Yeah.
Which scored a little better, but
you take.
I don't like Ward on the wing.
Yeah,
I think he's a worry.
One thing that we noted in the Discord, and we've spoken about before, is that he's he scored that 150 when Tom Mitchell and O'Meara and a couple of other players weren't in the side, and he was in the guts. And now he's been pushed out on the wing, and he's lost a lot of that scoring, hasn't he? Kind of that avenue to scoring is not there anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You'd take a 48 from McDonald any day, right?
Yeah, at 115.
117.
Yeah, you take it out of the way.
All right. So just looking at North Melbourne now, we've got Luke McDonald, 140, Aaron Hall, Davies Uniacke, Jack Siebel, Jai Simpkin, and then that's probably about it, really. So did Luke McDonald's 140 kind of impress you there? Something you weren't looking at?
He had a lot of intercept marks. It was
Definitely
like,
true.
Jesus Christ, this guy, all the time they're kicking it to him and he's intercepting. I think he's playing his old role in 2020 that he got, and he averaged 115. I'm really considering this guy,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to see one more round.
Yeah, he'd get that nice DPP come round 6 as well. So
yeah, so he'll become a defender at 360k, which is
it's not bad. Defender keeper
not
at 360k. I know he started going big when Ben McKay got knocked out. So maybe that's something to look out for. But I mean, 140, even if he at 360k or whatever, scores something big again, grab him now.
You're a North supporter. Is Ben McKay all right or not?
Well, he's on under concussion protocols now. So he'll be out this week and potentially the next week because it's 12 days. So I'm not sure exactly how the dates line up, but he's going to be out at least for next week. So we could get 2 massive scores from Luke McDonald 2 weeks in a row, and there's your cash gen at least. Jump up to 500k, straight swap for someone else. So could happen. Yeah. Tell me about Aaron Hall, Shaq.
I love this pick.
Yeah.
When Supercoach opened, I was literally trying to get crisp out to Hall, like ASAP. I'm just going to have to hold on that. Now, I really like Hall. I think he's D1 or D2 this year. He looks really good. Like, ticks every box for a defensive premium, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just look really good, man. Yeah. Just really good and just so greedy to get the ball. And I love that in defenders. I love greedy players. A lot of meters gained.
Yeah.
Just constant running, getting 1-2s, so really liked Aaron Hall.
That's good. Yeah, he definitely is used as that transition player up the ground, and you can definitely tell that by his almost kilometre meters gained. I'm not sure if Supercoach has ever had a person who's gained 1,000, but I'm not sure if it would break like fan footy having to put an extra digit on there. Maybe Aaron Hall's the guy. Aaron Hall's the guy to do it 1 week.
Monty can't get that one up on the screen, so
definitely you're in trouble. 999, that's it. LDU did quite well. He seems to have a bit of that clearance role. Obviously, we didn't win, but it was good. Jack Siebel looks like he's kind of got the same role in defense as what he had last year. So you could pencil him in for like another 115. I don't know if you'd have picked him over Hall being more expensive, but just what happens. Jai Simpkins, similar as well. And then Horn Francis. So he's probably the rookie that you would have. But we'll talk about Tristan Cherry as well. But Horn Francis at 200k showed a lot. Definitely had a few clearances by the 4 clearances there on the stat sheet. And just looked generally good. What was your kind of thoughts on him?
He looked okay, to be honest. Wasn't great, but he looked good when he had the ball. I just feel it's overs for him.
200k is a lot. Yeah.
And like there are some third-year players like Brody, Jerry, you could have went. So Jerry's got a really good role. So I'm comparing him to Jerry because they're the same price, and Jerry's ruck 1. And
yeah, if you had to pick both, you would pick Cherry over Horn Francis any day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'd pick Horn Francis over Josh Ward, though. At 20k more. So,
100%.
Yeah. One thing that we've spoken about pre-season and stuff is you're really good at weighing up 2 players and being like, well, we've only got this many options. Would I pick him over this player or this player or this player? So it's a really good way to kind of look at Supercoach, especially when you're upgrading, but starting out your team as well, right? Kind of, you've only got this much cash. Why do you pick him over someone else at a similar price in your team? You love value.
Yeah, well, for me, value is king, and at the start, building your team, because there are always a few mid prices that become premiums, not mid prices, and finding that player in your, like, if you have 11 premiums, and finding 2 or 3 of those saves you 3 premium trades,
of course,
upgrades your team a lot faster. So
yeah,
you hit and miss on some, but yeah.
Well, it's be like not having Matt Rowell in your team. It's a bit silly. So definitely there. Cherry did quite well. Seems to have cemented pretty much at least R2 in the team now.
Yep.
I think he was a bit hard done by, only scoring 79. There was time where he was getting touches and hit outs, but he wasn't being scored for some reason. So, yeah, see what happens. I guess for Hawks, look out for McDonald. See if Sicily can score similar again. And he's a great downgrade target for your Ridleys, for your Crisps, those kind of players. Even Whitfield at a similar price. And then McDonald and Josh Ward's probably a no-go, depending on what he's going. He's in my team now, but next week, after this week 2, we'll see what happens for me, definitely. So north side, McDonald, definitely watch. Aaron Hall, watch. Cherry, get him in if you don't have him. 200K is pretty good. And then Horn Francis as well, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Taron Thomas just looked lazy on field. So sorry for those who picked him, but I'd be looking at offloading him.
Yeah,
considering Heaney's like the same price, would you pick Taron Thomas or Heaney? You know what I mean? Like, it kind of doesn't work out very well that way.
450K playing a bad team. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not sure.
The role's there, but he just doesn't want to do it. So I'd rather grab Heaney that's popping out 140s. Almost finished, Shaq. So we've got Adelaide and Freo up now. Adelaide didn't really have a lot of guys that scored big.
Yeah, just Josh Rochelle and Dawson. That's all we needed.
Yeah.
Dawson's role changed in the second half, which was
he was placed forward in the first half, and then he went back wing in the second half. So I don't know what happened there. I think McPherson got injured.
And he started getting kickouts.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I need to monitor on Dawson. He might be a good pick.
Bit of a downgrade maybe to a couple of other players.
Yes, I thought Saliga and the other rookie, Richelli. What a debut, you know.
Yeah, he's not going to kick 5 goals every week, but it's a great score, right? And you'd be happy with that. Do you think he's a must-have now? If you don't have him, find a way to get him in.
Yeah, you got to get him in. He's going to make too much money.
Yeah, and they seem to look for him too. I don't know if you watched the game, but he was that guy that was open, but they was like kicked to Rochelle almost.
I think he's a really good kick of the footy as well, just in general. So it's not a fluke to kick 3-3 and now kick 5-1. I mean, that's what, 13 goals something?
In 3 games.
Yeah,
11 goals in 3
games. 11 goals won in 3 games. So
yeah, it's pretty good.
He's a good kick.
Get him in. That's it. So that's probably it from there. People have picked Malira, but he's not a good pick. Looking at Freo, so you've got Brayshaw, Lobb, Mundy, Hayden Young, and I know some people got saved by Heath Chapman. So what's your kind of thoughts on Brayshaw at sub 600K? Is he turning into a bit of a guy to look at as a potential keeper?
Yeah, I'm really big on Brayshaw this year. I think his run for the next 8-9 games,
it's pretty good.
It's really, really good. And at 580K, it's really tempting me to get him. I know it's a bit of a sideways move, but I really like Brayshaw to break out this year.
Okay. And he seems to have Freo doesn't have a lot of mids in their team that are taking points off him. So he's a guy that should get similar numbers every week, right? It's not like Oliver Petrarca sharing points.
The thing was, George scared me off him. He was saying he only gets 70% mid-time,
Yep.
And he played 85%. Brody was getting like 60. I mean, Brayshaw with 85% mid-time.
definitely.
Going against some of the bottom 5 teams in the comp over next.
How can you not have him, right? It's a bit crazy.
I mean, he could easily match a 700k player like Tuke Miller or something. It could happen, and he's one on my watch list that I could be trading in this week.
Cool. So Hayden Young's probably one that we're going to pass on. Looking down at Chapman, would you have Chapman in your team if you had the space and the money? So you want to look at?
He got lucky with that spoil for 35 points.
I mean, he was on 52, and then he got a 58 maybe, and then he got up to 80 in one, 30 seconds of game time. So he saved the game for them, but it's a lot.
He went missing, I thought.
Yeah, I think so too.
So maybe hold, but if you get a Sin or another rookie coming in from Port, maybe go down.
Yeah. And last up, we've got Will Brodie. So what's kind of your thoughts on Brodie at the moment? I thought
he was really good. I got Brodie in my team because I went Brodie over Jerry, which is looking like it's sort of even.
50-50, yeah.
I just like him. He's just constantly near the ball. He had, 13 contested possessions?
Yeah, it's a lot.
I just think he's got no tank, and I think it's going to take him a couple of games to just get his mid-time up. And I think he should be okay. I'm really reasonably happy with the Brodie pick. What did you think? I know we watched the game.
I think he was there. I think definitely we were talking about his last quarter was basically on the bench. Hence he's over here. We'll wait till it resets. 65% game time, which is pretty scary for a player. Like that's a lot of game time missing. That's almost half the game on the bench. But to do that and still score 76, I think he fills a role that Freo don't have, which is that kind of clearance player, which means that he'll play like every week, even with Fife and other guys back. I know I've talked about him being similar to a Jack McRae and a Dunkley. So Brayshaw's the McRae and Brodie could be the Dunkley who gives him the clearance, or is that kind of clearance player. So there's a role there for him. I think I don't have him in my team, first off, because I couldn't afford him, but because I picked other guys like Cherry who do a similar role. So if you've got him, you've got to be pretty happy. Even if he scores 80s at 200K or 220, he's a must-have, right?
Yeah.
Good cash player there. Definitely. And no one's picking Luke Ryan, right? Like he was kind of a ward-off scary pick. Only scored a 70 in a game that he should have scored a lot more.
I think that was a lucky miss. I liked Ryan in pre-season.
Okay.
But, I got lucky. I went crisp. Oh, not really lucky because they both scored the same. So it didn't really matter if I did even. If I wasn't going to go crisp, I was going to go Ryan. So it doesn't really matter. It works out.
Definitely. So from Adelaide, we're looking at Rochelle and Dawson there, kind of looking at job role.
Dawson's a big watch next week.
Probably not Saligo or any other rookie that they've got in. And Freo looking at Brayshaw. Who else were we looking at? We were looking at Chapman potentially, and then Brodie as well. So kind of seeing what those guys at, I know a few people have Chapman at D5, D6, and Brodie in your midfield or forward line. So guys that are going to make you money. As you said, cash is king, right? So you want your value early so you can use your trade boosts later on to get primos in a lot quicker. So we've got one more team, Shaq. Last team, biggest game of the week. I know we're both cheering on players and hoping they do really well.
Yeah, I think I had 3 players that scored me like 500 points in this game.
It's pretty good. So we're just going to start off with West Coast. So McGovern, Jones, Gaff, and Redden were the big guys. You probably wouldn't pick any of those guys in your Supercoach team, would you?
McGovern's an interesting one.
Okay.
But probably not, I guess. If he has kickouts and they're getting smashed, maybe it could be an option. But other than that, I don't like anyone from West Coast. So maybe Hugh. Hugh's
I think a couple of people had Hugh and Dixon as kind of cheapo options. And I know a couple of people jumped on Naish as well. Just kind of he got traded in maybe like 180K. I think he is around that price. And then Nick Nat. I know a few people kind of, when the Darcy news happened, they went Darcy to Nick Nat. And obviously that really didn't work out with a 63. Did he get injured?
Nah, okay, he just got towelled by Wits.
He just got smashed, yeah. All right. And talking about your favourite team, obviously being a Melbourne supporter, you support them, but you were definitely on the Gold Coast train this game. So Matt Rowell went huge. Tuke Miller, great captain option, even though he looked a bit shaky. We got Wits and Noah Anderson. Tell me about Matt Rowell and why do you have to pick him?
He just looked incredible. So hungry to get the ball. I think he's back.
I think so.
You're in trouble if you don't have him.
He's almost a must-have, isn't he? Like he had 6 free kicks, which kind of inflates the price a little bit, the score a little bit. But if you don't have him, you're in big trouble. He could almost be a keeper at 340K.
That's right.
Yeah. 22 contested possessions, I think, is the most out of anyone this week.
This week, yeah.
This week, so it's pretty beast. I have to say, this is my first year of owning Tuke Miller, and I'm pretty happy about it. He did go missing a tiny bit, I think. Got tagged for a little while. But 137, you got to be happy about that, right?
Yeah, Captain Tuke, so
yeah,
very happy with that.
Yeah, I think you'd be very happy picking him over Steele, kind of knowing what we've talked about this episode, and over a couple of other players too. So if you had Oliver or Steele instead of Tuke, you'd be a little bit worried right now. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Jared Witts. So did you started Darcy, right? Did you start Darcy?
I had Gorn and Witts in my rucks.
Yep.
And I just saw value in Witts. I thought he's got the mids. I think he's a good tap ruckman, and he's got the midfielders to actually win the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he could be about 100, 105, 100 to 105 average maybe.
Yep.
But
so
I think he just makes the cash. He makes the cash to get you any ruck, and he's going to play.
Yeah, definitely.
And I really like him, and I think Tuke Miller spoke about him in the previous Amy game against Geelong. They're just happy to have the big fella back, which tells you a lot.
They definitely do a lot better with him in the team versus having like nobodies, right? So you've got to, if he's in playing, the other guys score a lot more, which is great for us. But Tuke Miller and Rowell owners, definitely.
And 77% game time is not bad from him because he generally has a bit lower, so I was happy with that.
Oh, especially scoring a 127. He scored more than Grundy, I think, and then obviously scored more than Witts. Scored more than Gorn this week. So at 350K, you'd be pretty happy. Has Alex Davies been on your watch list at all this preseason? I think he's about 200K and he scored 86.
Yeah, this is the rookie that's going under the radar a bit.
Yeah,
I feel in most community circles, Supercoach circles. An 86. What was it? 200K? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's about 200, just a tick over. So it'd be him or like Horn Francis in your team around that kind of price.
Yeah, I'm not sure on him actually, Jay. I'm not sure. He scored really well in Amy, I think, one game.
Yep.
But what do you feel? I feel it's not a necessity to get him in.
I agree with what you're saying about people not talking much about him. I know there was a little bit of talk on like Facebook about him. He's potentially taking over the Greenwood type role. I think he went big in one of the Amy games, like you're saying, but he's definitely under the radar. And I don't know how he fits in that pecking order of you've got to have Dacos, you've got to have you've got to have Brody, you've probably got to have Horn Francis in there, Rochelle. So like, where does he fit in the pecking order of those guys who are almost 200K or just over? Because he'd be competing with one of those guys for the spot. But if he scores another 80 or 90 and you really wanted to offload Josh Ward, he could be a pickup. I think he plays in this midfield every time. He's not under any pressure to get pushed out from anybody. So it's an option there for you. Bit of a weird option, but potentially see what happens.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So last game of the round, who are we looking at? So probably no one from West Coast, maybe a couple of the rookies, depending on how they're going. I know we're strapped for an R3 that doesn't play, so Dixon could be that for us, and a Howe, or a Hoff, I think his name is. And then obviously if you don't have Rao, get him in, but bust the gates to get him in pretty much. He'd be a much more pick, be a more required pick than even Lipinski, you would reckon? If you had to choose between the both, you'd pick Rao over Lipinski right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I started Rao, so I think half the comp started him, so there's a reason they started him.
Definitely. And then Tuke Miller, get him in, sideways trade, steal Oliver if they have another stinker game. And that's probably about it, right?
Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for having me, Jay.
Hey,
It was
no worries, mate.
interesting discussion we had tonight.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do this again next week. See how you're feeling. I love your insight and how you're talking about players, something a bit different than what people kind of think about, which is important for Supercoach. You can't only just listen to the same people every week. So yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
No worries.
Have a good
I'll
one.
catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.